He just wanted to hurt someone. Perhaps he believed that was the only way to prove his own existence. In 2010, in Toride City, Ibaraki Prefecture, a man suddenly wielded a knife on a bus full of high school students heading to school. 14 people were injured in the random attack. Behind it were loneliness, despair, and warning signs that society had overlooked. The Toride Station random attack. What should we learn from this incident? We want you to know it. At the time of the incident in 2010, Yuta Saito was 27 years old. He had no steady job and lived a life of isolation with little connection to society. Born and raised in Ibaraki Prefecture, he was described as a quiet, unremarkable student in elementary and middle school. He struggled with communication and rarely spoke. He dropped out of high school and drifted from one part-time job to another. He worked briefly as a newspaper delivery man, but couldn't hold the position for long. At home, he was also isolated, with weak ties to his family. He had no friends, no community ties. He became like an invisible existence to those around him. In his mid-20s, he began to experience mental health issues and was diagnosed with schizophrenia, beginning psychiatric treatment. But he discontinued the treatment on his own, stopping both medication and regular checkups. He became more withdrawn, with no conversation, no goals, and lived each day feeling utterly abandoned by society. What grew within that loneliness was a belief that he had no value, and a desire to show his existence by doing something drastic. With no one to talk to, no one reaching out, he eventually picked up a knife, carrying only despair. On the morning of December 17, 2010, at around 7:40 a.m., a cold winter morning, like any other, a school bus departed from Toride Station on the Kanto railway line, carrying students from Tsukuba International University High School. Drowsy faces, laughter among friends, glances at smartphones. It was a peaceful and ordinary commute, but one man on that bus stood out. A silent, suspicious figure sitting quietly. Yuta Saito, 27 years old. Without saying a word, he stared straight ahead, a sharp knife hidden in his pocket. Shortly after the bus departed, he suddenly stood up. Without warning, he stabbed a female student sitting next to him. The bus instantly descended into panic. Screams echoed, the smell of blood filled the air, and the students were engulfed in terror with nowhere to run. "Help! Stop!" He ignored the cries and continued slashing indiscriminately at the passengers. Some students tried to protect their friends despite their own injuries. The driver stopped the bus and responded swiftly. One student bravely tackled Saito, and with help from others, he was finally restrained. The entire attack lasted only a few minutes. But for those on the bus, it must have felt like an eternity in hell. In total, 14 people were injured by the knife. Some suffered serious wounds, but miraculously, no one died. Thanks to the swift response and the courage of those on board, a greater tragedy was prevented. After his arrest, Saito told police, "I wanted to kill someone and get the death penalty. I was in despair," he said. "I didn't see any meaning in living anymore." His statements revealed a deeply self-destructive mindset. A psychiatric evaluation followed the incident, and while schizophrenia was confirmed, he was not found to have completely lost his capacity to take responsibility. The court ruled he had limited criminal responsibility. At trial, prosecutors argued for a severe sentence, citing the gravity and social impact of the crime. The defense claimed that Saito's mental illness influenced his actions, and that this should mitigate his punishment. A psychiatrist testified that delusions and hallucinations may have blurred his perception of reality, but this did not lead to a full exemption of responsibility. In court, Saito kept his head down and remained silent. He offered no apology, no sign of remorse. Some victims later said, "It was a miracle no one died. We were just going to school. Why did this happen to us? In 2013, Yuta Saito was sentenced to 18 years in prison. The verdict was finalized. We must not dismiss this as just another random attack. What makes this incident so disturbing is that the loneliness and despair Saito carried may not have been unique. What if someone had simply spoken to him? Behind the label of mental illness, there may have been a silent cry for help. Right now, in this very moment, there are people on the verge of breaking. What kind of gaze are we turning toward them? The line between perpetrator and victim is often blurred. In a society where anyone can cross it at any time, perhaps what we truly need to ask is not, how do we prevent crimes, but rather, how do we prevent isolation? The Toride Station random attack. It was a tragedy born from overlooked loneliness. On an ordinary morning, blaming the perpetrator alone will not change anything. What we can do is build a society where someone notices the small changes in those around them. A place where unheard voices are noticed. Where silent suffering is gently acknowledged. That may be the first step toward preventing the next tragedy.